I am going to start working on my teepee project. It was inspired by the one and only K-Dog Crazy. Anyway, what I'm doing is I decided I'm going to build the first teepee here at the shop, work all the bugs out of it, and then take it out in the field. One problem, no teepee poles. So I went to the back field and all the trees back there, I couldn't find anything worth using. I called a friend of mine up, he's got quite a bit of property, and I asked him, you mind if I go out there and harvest some materials for my project? He said, sure, come on out and grab what you need. And I did. Let me show you what I came up with here. I came up with 6 excellent poles. They're roughly 13 foot long and fairly straight. I've got 2 different types of poles. We've got 3 heavy duty ones. This one, and that one, and I think this one. Those are going to be my main support poles. And I got 3 medium duty poles right here. This one, this one, this one. So we need to process these, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to cut these ends at a little bit of an angle, similar to this one. That way when I set the teepee up, I can ram this into the ground and it'll be able to take a heavy wind so the poles won't move or slide around on me. So I'm going to get started on that first. I've got my angle cut in there, right about where I think it should be. It's not a bad looking angle. Now I just didn't randomly cut these angles. If you notice how some of these poles curve down like this, well, I don't want that on the teepee. I want them as straight as possible. Even though some of the sticks or the poles are not as straight as could be, I put them up where they laid straight across the trailer, and the knot is where I cut my angle at. So if you notice, this one has got that big crick in it, so I cut the angle to match accordingly. That way, when this is leaning up against the teepee, this whole section will be straight. The next thing on the agenda is we need to cut them to length. So I've got my little schematic over here. It looks like the poles need to be cut at 12 foot. So from there to there, we're going to do 12 foot. So I'm going to take one pole and basically make a jig with it. And I think we'll use this one. Yep, that's already got the groove. And I cut a groove in here for the tape measure. And you notice I cut this up from where this goes into the ground, because if this part's going to be sunk into the ground, then the 12 foot is going to start right here at the groove. And I'll just slide this little booger out. And there is our 12 foot mark. And I'll cut those all off at 12 foot, and then we'll get on to the next part of the process. I now have all the poles trimmed up and at the same size. We need to move on to the next phase of the project. We have to remove all the skin from these logs, especially since I want to keep these. And if this project works out the way I think it will, I'm going to have Jeremy help me build a canvas tarp for this teepee and use it as a tent. So you're asking, why the heck do you got to take the bark off? Well, if I leave the bark on and the tree starts to dry, what's going to happen is it's going to create a fungus on the inside between the bark and the wood itself and start rotting these poles out immediately. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to take all the bark off, set it in the sunlight for a couple of days, and let them dry out before I move on to the next phase of the project. So let's start skimming the bark off. poles have officially been skinned or removed of your bark, whichever way you'd like to put it. Now I'm just going to let them sit out here for a couple of days, kind of let them dry out enough for me to work on them some more. And then every day I'm going to come out and rotate them at least once to make sure they don't warp on me. The poles have been drying for 4 days now, and they quit leaking sap 3 days ago, and they're still somewhat dry. Yep, they're dry to the touch, so I can work with them. I guarantee if I scrape the outer coating off, it'll still be damp on the inside. Unfortunately, it does take a long time for poles to dry in this winter months. Not a big deal. So it's time to start prepping our poles to set the teepee up. First thing, my original goal, or my main goal is I'm going to coat these with linseed oil. But since I can't do that until they dry all the way, I need to protect the bottom of them, or the feet of the poles, which are going to be sitting on the ground. So I'm going to come up 3 inches here, put a mark, then I'm going to spray some, I think some spray paint on there, whatever I got laying around in the shop. I might have black or green or something. We're going to do 3 inches here of spray paint to protect the bottom section from the moisture soaking up into the poles. Then I'm going to come up this way and mark off at our 10-foot section, and that's where the poles tie up according to what I have here on my maps. So there's everything we got on that. Alright, so and I'm just going to sand a little bit and get get some of the knots smoothed out so it doesn't damage the cover and some of these little furry things that stick out. Get those off there and clean the poles up a bit. So that's what I need to do right now. The poles are all painted. Now it's time to move on to the next phase of the project. We're going to build our teepee cover out of this 10 by 20 heavy duty poly tarp. And I want you to notice it is a 10 mil thickness. Another thing I want everybody to notice, it is silver on one side and brown end on the other. There's a reason for that. In the winter time, I'm going to have the silver side facing in, reflect the heat inside the teepee. And in the summer, I'm going to rotate it around the silver side out to reflect the heat away from the teepee. And with it being brown like that, I think it's going to blend in nice with the background in the winter months. Okay, so we got our tarp. What we need to do is we need to lay that sucker out. And basically, we're going to make a half shape here and make a cone out of it. And I lost my cone. Well, I had a demo cone. I don't know where it went. Anyway, we're going to use that area right there to get our tarp laid out. I have all 4 corners of the tarp staked down at the moment. And if you notice, that's 10. On that, my friends, is 20. So we got to take this side of the tarp and fold it over this way and then stretch it out as tight as I can. The next step is going to be a fun one. As you see, I got the tarp stretched out, got it folded in half, and now it is 10 by 10. This is the back side where the fold is, where I folded it actually. And right here in the corner, I put a stake, and I got some of this line attached to it. We're going to come down here. We're basically going to trace out a huge horseshoe. I'm going to kind of show you on my paperwork here. I'm just going to make this horseshoe right there, from there to there. And this line on this marker, we're going to go from this corner all the way up to that corner. I've got the half circle traced out, and I went one direction this way, rechecked my line, went a second direction, and noticed I'm off by a little bit. So I'm going to kind of split the difference, and I'm leaving the line in with the stake at the end right there. And I got 2 marks on it, and I'm going to check my progress as I cut, just to make sure I get it somewhat close to a half circle there. So I'm going to start cutting from here and go that way. We've now got the tarp cut, and pretty much a half circle, but if you stretch it out, it will be a full circle. It's kind of a cone shape now. Okay, so let me explain what I'm doing. This right here is the top of the teepee. This down here is the bottom. From there to there is where our front door is. Now we got to put anchor points all the way along the outside. And I did my math a little backwards here, so I'll show you what I did. Instead of 2.5 from that point to that point, we're going to do it there because that's where the front door is. And then we're going to go 5, 5, and then 3. Okay, so 5, 5, 3, and we're going to have to put an anchor, a mark on this tarp, and on, if we can get it, the bottom tarp, which is right here. So that's the next step. I've got everything marked out where I'm going to put the tie downs out, and I use the tent stakes, that way I can adjust accordingly and just move the stake around instead of move the mark around all the time. And I've got the top and the bottom marked, well, both sides. We're going to use this simple little grommet kit we got from Harbor Freight, and it runs you about $4. But we need to do one more thing before we start putting these grommets in here, and we need to reinforce this tarp. So over here, and I don't believe in throwing anything away. I try to use every bit of the tarp I can. Some of you might recognize this board here. This is left over from the dome build project. So what we're going to make are waffles. Yep. Actually, I'm going to call these the pancakes. We're going to make the pancakes. I'm going to use this bowl. I'm going to cut this out, and then we're going to use that to reinforce the tarp. And since I am not big into sewing at all, we're going to use some of this stuff. This is 3M90. You can get it at Builder Square or any home outlet store. They're going to run $12 to $14, and I swear by this stuff. It's held the dome together throughout the summer on the cover on that. So we got to cut these out, and we're going to need 8 of them. Yeah, I'll cut 9 just in case. 8 pancakes. We have all our pancakes cut out. Now I've just got to determine where we're going to place them on a tarp. So they are 8.5 inches wide, and we're going to go over to the tarp and figure out where 8.5 inches is in the tarp, find center, and then we'll put a mark on each side or where the marks are on the tarp. That way we can get them right where we need them. That should do it. We'll put a mark here and a mark here. And we'll transfer that over to the other side. And that should, line up right there. And then the grommet will go there, and we'll just fold these little boogers over. So I'm going to continue this the rest of the way down. We're going to spray the pancakes with 3M90, and I just checked the temperature, and we are at the bare minimum temperature. They like to have it at 60 degrees in order to adhere right. We're at 57, so we're going to be cutting it really close. A couple things about this 3M90, it's really cool. They have an adjustable nozzle, so you can spray any direction you want. A very important safety tip with this stuff: do not breathe it in. It will clog your lungs up. Okay, do not get it on camera gear or anything you don't want sticky. So we're just going to spray a nice little coat of this on there. Let it sit until it's sticky, and then we're just going to transfer it over. There we go, to the teepee. I think this is about as tacky as it's going to get. It's been sitting for 5 minutes. Alright, so we're going to put it in. Line our marks up there and there. Press down on it. Now periodically throughout the day I will come back and press on it again just to make sure it's got a good, oh, there we go, get on there. Here's very well. There we go. Sticks on there really well. And it don't take long, man. Once the stuff is stuck, it's not going anywhere. Alright, we have that on there. These kits are really easy to use. I do have a video on that online, so if you want to scroll through my videos and check that out, but you can either read the instructions or just wing it. This first here is the tap. Basically it cuts the hole in the tarp, and it's not going to be very happy because I got adhesive on there. There we go. We're going to put that about the middle right there. Just simply pound that in. Twist, pulled out, we got a nice little hole. Okay, put this on the bottom, and put this little booger in there. Oop, did it backwards. Put this little booger in there, pop it through the hole. Okay, make sure that's the right way. Okay, the ring's on the right way. Put that on the top, and we just pound it down. Boom, instant grommet. Now we're going to repeat this process all the way around until we get this entire side done. We got all our grommets put in with the extra supports for the tie downs. And I've just been periodically going along and just kind of stepping on it, make sure it adheres. Okay, this is the top of our teepee right here. And this is what hooks in at the top. And I've been looking at these grommets and wondering when they line up, it might be a good idea just for me to add an extra grommet on the top and the other side here, because this is how the whole teepee ties together. That's what holds the cover on. But I'm going to wait until I get it assembled to find out. Next step is going to be the poles. And they are now dry to the touch, so we need to get those out and start getting them set up. And I found my pylon. Okay, this is what we just did. We traced it out and we cut it. There we go. Everybody can see. And here's what the cover looks like as it sits right now. It's basically a little pylon. Okay, and you got to kind of picture the poles sticking out of the top. So let's get that sucker set up over the fence and get our poles drug out and start on that phase of the project. We've got our 3 main support poles that I've chosen, and they are laid out. I want to show you something that's kind of important here. Since these poles will be going in several different directions, I want them to face the angle, which direction will be on the ground. So this biggest pole right here is what I call the door pole, or the main pole. The secondary pole will go off to the side, so it's going to be turned like this, and this other pole is going to be off to the side, and it's going to be turned a little bit like that actually. And then we're just going to go up to our 10-foot mark. Okay, just about like that. That should do what I need to do. Our 10-foot mark up here, and we're simply going to lash these little guys together. We're going to be using a little poly rope for this project. Why I'm not using 550s because the stuff will stretch and slip on you, and poly rope will not. I want to give everybody a quick heads up. When it comes to tying knots, I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing. So, you're going to want to look knot tying up for your own self, because I don't want to steer you wrong and accidentally have the shelter collapse on you. So, definitely want to do your research on that one. So I'm just kind of doing this by instinct. Okay, that looks like a knot to me. And yeah, let's hope that sucker holds together. Alright, let's get this thing set up and see what happens. I'm impressed. It's standing up by itself. And the poles are going the right way in the ground. I'm pretty happy at this point. It's just going to get even better as we go along. Okay. This is our center stake. From now on, everything will be measured off this stake. It'll tell me where the center of the teepee is, how far the poles need to be placed out. So what I've done, we went out 5 foot from the center, because it has a 10-foot radius, and I put a mark on this 550, and I want to show you something. See, there it is. See how the 550 is just sitting there? See what happens when you give it a tug? It stretches. That's what I mean by 550 always stretching on you. So we're going to go around and mark the diameter where we want to place everything using this rope. And this is our main pole, which I consider our door pole. And we need to cock this sucker off to the center to right about there, because there'll be another pole on this side coming down. That's where our door is going to be, so I want the door at the front. And I am working on very uneven ground, so this ought to be pretty darn interesting. Okay, now I'm going to tie the top off, and I'm going to be standing on these two buckets right here because I can't find a short ladder. And I'm thinking to myself, what could possibly go wrong? Okay, I'm going to head up there and do that. Once again, I don't know any knot tying techniques. I'm just going to be winging it as I do it. So, yeah, wish me luck. Whoa! I don't know what kind of knot I tied, but I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. Alright, so now we're going to start prepping the cover to put on there. And then we'll even the poles out even more and stake the tarp down. See how the corners are doing. They're actually drying. Okay, so I need to go get some carabiners and get the tarp ready to put on. Okay, these holes line up really good. I think I need to put one here and here to get that tighter. And then this is the door. I need to mark a place to put some holes on this because that's too much. Well, you know what? I can seal that. Alright, so you can see I'm starting to brainstorm, so things are going to get real interesting quick. You know what, let me get something and I'll seal these off, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I've kind of tightened it up there, put everything together as you can see. I'm after looking at it, now I'm starting to brainstorm, so things are going to get real interesting real quick. I'm going to go ahead and pop a hole here in between that one and that one, here in between this one and this one, and maybe so on and so forth down. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stake it out, even the poles out, and stand back and take a look at it, see how that looks. I'm noticing on the, right there, we got a bit of a crinkle. I think I know why that's happening. So we stick all these sides out, then even the poles out to where all the supports are. Shouldn't be a problem. And I think next time I set it up, that pole right there needs to go over that way, and that pole goes that way. There's more of an opening at the top. So that's what I'm going to do next real quick. So we're going to stake this thing down. I want to show you the stakes I'm using right here. I make these myself. We're going to be using these instead of these monster stakes. But basically, all these are I think they're called landscaping nails. This is to nail railroad ties and stuff together. And you can get these at a Home Depot. I think they're 70 cents a piece. And then I just put a fender washer on the top of it like that, welded it on, and then sprayed some orange paint on there. Safety orange paint. As you can tell, they've got a lot of use. So that's what I'm using for tent stakes. See what's going on there? How it's kind of wrinkling? That needs to come down. The 10-foot mark is right there where that lashing is. You can see it right there. So I need to go inside and pull this down a little bit, maybe push the teepee in a bit, well, because that's going to happen no matter what. We're on an uneven ground. It's starting to look a lot like a teepee. Now I just got a lot of tinkering to do. Yep, that has to be pulled down by quite a bit. Okay, pole placement is a very big deal, I'm coming to find out, but I was able to put the poles in a little bit, bring this down, bring that closer to the ground there around the corners, and I'm going to go ahead and stake those in and stretch all the poles up and see what we come up with, and make sure we still got 10 foot in here. I think we do. We'll find out here in a minute though. I need to catch everybody up to what I've been doing. The other day when I was working on the teepee, I started brainstorming and I stopped filming. So I'm going to give you everybody an update. First thing I did, remember I was talking about adding extra grommets? I did that and I'm very happy with the outcome. There's still a lot of tension on that one there, but that's because of that pole. So I can fix that later, it's not a big deal. So I got all the extra grommets did. And then I put on extra tie downs, what are not 100% necessary for the project, but I'm going to make an inner skirt for it, and that's going to really help that inner skirt out. So I got all these extra grommets put in, and I did support them like I did with the teepee tie downs. There, I'll push that stake in a little bit more, but anyway, that is done. Now, something I've skipped ahead, and I was going to do the skirt first, but now I need to skip ahead to this project because I got one day left of good weather, and then it's going to start freaking raining and possibly snowing. So I need to make a rain cap for that. It's going to go around here. I've already measured it, and it's right around a 5-foot to a 6-foot radius to this point right there. Now I've seen pictures of rain caps, and I'm going to be 100% winging it on this project because I don't know how it's going to turn out. So there's going to be a lot of modifications along the way. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this 1 inch, this is 1/2 inch PVC pipe, scheduled 40. I'm going to heat it up, bend it around this trash bin and make a complete circle with it. And then we'll move on to the next step after that. Well, we got our circle done. I'm finding out my trash burn barrel is not as round as I thought it was. Oh well, no big deal. Let's go see if it fits though. Yes, it's going to be perfect. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Alright, so I need to make some choices real quick. Let's pull this sucker off, take it to the table, and I'll show you what I'm thinking about doing. On a normal rain cap for a teepee, this is actually made out of wood, and they make it so it comes up and over and up and over and up and over here to stabilize it. Well, I'm thinking I've only got one piece of PVC left, and I can change this down the road because that's not a big deal. I'm going to put these T-sections here and here, put the PVC pipe in there, bend it into a horseshoe, shove it in there, and see if that'll fit on top of the teepee. So I think that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to pull this guy out here and figure out where I want to cut over here. There we go. Yeah, trash can is not round. So let's cut this little booger right across there. Does that look good to you guys? Hang on. Let's cut here. And if this doesn't work a little bit down the road, I can go ahead and modify it. Well, let's cut this sucker here. There we go. I'll put this one here. Put this one here for now. Then we'll put this little guy here. Reshave some of it. There we go. Then I'm going to superheat this up here in the center, and we're just going to bend it over and see what happens. Then I can adjust it as we go along. This might have worked out a lot better than I thought. I'm not sure until we go put it on top of the teepee. So let's go retrofit it and see what happens. I'll be darned. It's going to work with only one pole in there. See how it, here's where the rain's going to hit. Go right on down the teepee, and it covers up all the poles and the vent for the smoke. I'll be darned. Let's take a closer look around the outside of the ring. Yeah, fits on there pretty darn good. We got to attach the pipes to all the fittings here so it doesn't come out again. We got two choices. We've got a solvent and we got cement. Since I'm not really worried about plumbing a house, I'm going to go with the solvent today. And we're simply just going to sand the ends off of it, smooth it up a little bit, and then put the solvent on there and put it together. Everything is finally glued together and not going anywhere. Cross your fingers. Next phase, we got to cover this. And we're going to be using this. Actually, this is the old tarp from the hot tub by the river. So yeah, I don't throw anything away. So we're going to be repurposing this little guy. And basically, we're going to attempt to cover this and cut it out, and we'll go from there. I have a feeling there's going to be some math involved. Let's see what happens. I got the rain cap done, and I went to town on this sucker. Extra support right here with some tarp. Put support at the top so the poles won't rip through. 3M90'd the heck out of it. I got one piece of cordage here for a support, and a piece of cordage here that'll hopefully hold that on there. And it looks just like a little hat, actually. Well, now for the fun part. We got to set it on top of the teepee without falling off the barrel. So this ought to be darn interesting. And secure it to the teepee. It's up there. I'm happy. I got it in place. It's tied in. I originally tied this cordage on the inside, and I got to thinking, well, that's a big mistake. That's going to be a drip line. So I put it on the outside so the water will drip down. I checked it with the board. The way it's set up, the rain should come right off the top and go right down and totally miss the opening right there. If not, I'll just put in one more grommet and raise it up a bit, but I think it's going to be perfect. So I've got quite a bit done with the project. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Unfortunately, I'm out of sunlight and I have to call it a day. Look at that. That's freaking cool. Kind of wish I had time to start a fire in here and see how well it performed. Well, that's it for today. It's been raining since last night, and I just had to come out here and see how the teepee's doing. The rain cap is doing an excellent job. You can see the water just kind of running off the top and dripping right down there. I think the most important thing, though, is the teepee dry on the inside. So let's go take a look. It would appear all the poles are dry. No water running down them. Yeah, I'm seeing a little drippage right here. Yeah, this cordage is wet. So it's dripping down towards the front door. No standing puddles in here anywhere. The floor is pretty dry. Yeah, there's a little water right here, but I think that's from when I had the door open. You can see the mud right there on the outside. The water's just running right off the sides. Huh. I fully expected to have a flood out here with all the rain, and it's low ground, but there really isn't any. You can see right there where the water's running off. It's just kind of soaking in the ground and going that way. Huh, impressive. Huh. Interesting. I'll have to come out here when it really starts raining in the storm. Oh, here comes the wind. But holding steady. Huh. I'm really happy right now. She's dry. We're down to the last step of the teepee build, which is a good thing because after today they're forecasting rain, sleet, and possibly snow for the next 4 to 5 days. So I need to get it wrapped up. We're going to be making the liner for the teepee. Basically what the liner does is it goes on the inside of the poles, and then with the gap on the outside, what happens is the air flows up through the liner, and we got our air barrier, goes up the side of the teepee and out the hole, on top of the hole, and draws the smoke out of it. So I've got pretty much all my prep work done, because you really don't need to see me cut the tarp again, but I'll get into that here in a second. So let me show you what I'm doing here. First thing I've done, I've put marks on each one of these poles. They are 3 foot from the ground up, and that's how tall our liner is going to be. I figured it out. If you can sit up in the teepee, it should be right about where your head is, where the draft will start flowing. And if you lay down, you should have plenty of room so the draft won't hit you. And they're on every single one of the poles here. We got that marked out. Another thing I did is I went ahead and staked all the poles down so they will not move. They're in the same position they would be if they would had a covering on it, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. Now, the next thing I did, you notice I've got another 20 by 10 tarp on the ground right here. So basically we cut another outside cover with it. So I went from that corner down 10 foot, cut all the way around this way, and this will theoretically cover up another teepee. And of course we use the rope method right there for marking our line. Now the second thing I did is I came up right here from the bottom. This is our 3 foot mark, and that's going to be the height inside the teepee where the liner stops. Then I came up and did 4 inches, and this is going to be our margin of error. So if I screw up, we still got 4 inches to play with, and I did that on both sides. Now we need to cut this out. As you can see, we now have the liner cut. The next step is we got to attach it to the teepee and figure out where it's going to be positioned before we put the grommets in. So what I'm going to do So I'm gonna drag this sucker in there and line the center up with that, then get the door lined up hopefully, and then I'm gonna staple it to the sides of the teepee, and then we'll put in our marks where we're gonna put pancakes and the grommets. Okay, I've stapled in the top. I'm going to staple the bottom. Then I'm just kind of wrap it around and loosely fit it and make sure I have everything lined up where I want it. I am very happy with the way the liner came out. And you notice I have the silver side facing out, and then on the teepee side facing in. I've got a theory, I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but if it does, there'll be a future video about it. If it doesn't, this liner can be flipped inside out, then the silver side will face in again. Okay, this is what I got. This here, I'm leaving on there. I'm going to make this part of the door section once I get everything lined up where I want it. So we're all temporary in with the staples. Next thing is I'm going to come in with my marker and make my marks where the center of the pole is, where we're going to put the pancake, and then where I estimate the grommets will be. We're going to put one on this side, and the same thing down at the bottom, all the way around. I've got all my marks officially on there, and it is a very, I mean very rough estimate. Okay, now we need to figure out how far apart we got to put our grommets. So I went around and measured all the poles, and 4 inches is the biggest one in here. So on the 4-inch pole, I'm going to come out, let's do this. 3 per side, 3 inches per center. And there'll be a grommet there, on a grommet right there. And we're going to do this with all the poles. Reason being is we need a margin of error, so when I flip this tarp around, I should be able to somewhat line the poles back up again. Yep, I think 3 inches is going to be our best bet all the way around. So now I'm going to pull the liner off, take it over to my workspace, and attempt to fit the pancakes on there. Unfortunately, it is very cold out, and I do not know how well the 3M90 is going to stick. So I have a feeling in the spring I'm going to have to go back over some of the areas, but I'm just going to get them stuck into place now so I can get the grommets on. So let's move on to that phase of the project. So what I'm doing is taking the waffle, putting it on there where it looks about right, because I might as well wing it. I've been doing it the whole project anyway. And putting a little center hole there, lining this up with the center, right there like that. And then we're just going to simply fold it over and even it out. Then glue it down, and I'll transfer my center mark. Actually, it'll be like this. And we got the center mark that just transferred right there. Line that up with that, glue it down, and then we'll measure out and put in our grommets. Okay, we got our lines in there, and I figure I'll just come about 1 inch down, grommet, and I'm going to repeat this process all the way across the top 5 more times. fun begins. If you remember, we did a 4 inches margin of error when we cut this out, so we can't fold the pancake over like I wanted. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to take a pancake, fold the little guy in half, to make a crease. And fold our pancake. Cut it. And there's our 4 inches margin of error. So we're going to have to figure, this is where the pole was. So 4 inches there. We're going to have to figure in right there. That's going to be the center of where it was. So the best thing to do is that, center. And line this up. We're going to line this here and here, and do that on both sides. We need to move quick because there's a front coming in, and I got about 2 to 3 hours of working time left before it starts to rain. What I've done is made a crease in the tarp where the other side is, the half of pancake. Just 2 lines here. Just take this little guy, stick it on. Hammer it down a little bit. Hopefully it'll stick. And there. So this should be about 4 inches. So 6 inches up. 3 and 3 across. About there. Put our holes in, put our grommets in, and repeat this process 5 more times. I have all the grommets are in place. Now the next thing to do is I'm going to put it in there and start from this pole and go all the way around, tie the top end loosely, and go around to the bottom, and then tie the bottom end loosely with this cordage I cut. It's about a little over 1 foot of poly rope, and we'll be using that. I've got the top section attached. Now we're going to move down and start attaching the bottom section here. And kind of tuning it in to where I want it. Okay, we are tied at the top, at the bottom, all the way around, and they're loosely tied. And we'll readjust after we get the cover put back on it to see how everything worked out. But we're almost done. I've got the cover on and the rain cap because it won't be long now But I want to give you a quick tip when you're putting your teepee up. You want to button down the front of the door before you start stretching it out. That way you know it'll open and close okay. Alright, so let's take a look at what we've done. We've got a 3-inch gap I was looking for all the way around for the air to flow up. Let's check the back here. Same on the back. And over here on the sides. And of course this is going to be a little higher because we are on uneven ground. And let's go in here, take a look. We've got a nice, push it up, nice little air gap right down there. And this side we're looking about 2 inches. You can see the air already flowing up it as we're sitting here. And that's a 2-inch gap all the way around the teepee. And this one's a little bit different, but not that big of a deal. This one's about a 4-inch gap. And that should suck the smoke out of here with no problems whatsoever. Very impressive. I didn't have to tighten the ropes up any more than I had them. I was impressed by that. And with the extra tarp I had laying around, I went ahead and put a ground cover in the teepee. So I want to say the liner is a big success. Very happy with the way it's came out so far. It's time now for the project summary. This talked about the building materials we used and the cost of them. We used two 10 by 20 foot tarps and they were at $24.97. We used one thing of poly rope and that was 50 foot, that was $5.27. We used one grommet kit and that was $5 and that was from Harbor Freight. One batch or can of 3 of 90, that was $12.99, so we're going to say $13. You can get that at Home Depot or Lowe's. Black paint you can get anywhere. I estimate the cost of that at $3. I had some of that laying around the shop, so that's not a big deal. PVC scheduled 40. That was ½ inch, a 10-foot stick. That was $1.71. Same thing, Home Depot, Lowe's, just about anywhere. A couple T-connections. They were ½ inch T-connections. I had 2 of those. Those were for 54 cents. And you can either go with the cement or you can go with the solvent, and I think they're like $5–6 a can. And the sandpaper, you can get 5 sheets for like $4 or something like that. Total cost, estimated cost. Now I didn't put in tax because a lot of the items I already had. So the total estimated cost of the project is going to be $82.72. It took 4 days to completely build the teepee. We're talking from prepping the poles, getting the poles set up, building the outside cover, the inside liner. What I'm going to do to the teepee next, down the road in the future, I'm going to put in smoke flaps and I'm going to put in a liner in it. The teepee will be featured at the spring meetup this year, so you guys want to come check it out, it'll be there. First overnight's planned within a couple of weeks. I got a friend of mine that's going to go out. We're going to do an overnight in it, so that'll be fun. Was a project worth my time doing? Yes, it was. I had a great time doing it, learned a lot. I come to find out I've modeled my teepee after a Sioux design, so this is a Sioux teepee. If you do want to build one and you want to do your research, just research how to build a teepee online, and it'll come up with all sorts of interesting plans and designs and give you a lot of ideas and history behind a teepee. I originally thought when I put this together that it was not going to be stable. A high wind was going to have a problem. It was going to have a problem holding up in a high wind. I was wrong. We had a windstorm come through here the other night and the teepee did not move. It did kind of damage one of the grommets, but that's not a big deal. I can go back a little bit later and fix that. So, this has been my teepee project. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or like to add or take away from my build or any suggestions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments section. And like always, friends, thanks for watching.